Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our Taking Flight Through COVID-19 Full-Time Job and Internship Searching webinar. Very excited that you are all here and looking forward to spending some time together thinking through all the ways and strategies that you can be successful in looking for the opportunities that you need right now, especially in light of all that's going on. My name is Matthew Little. I'm an assistant director with Career Services at the University of Dayton. I'm also the career advisor to the School of Business Administration, and I am going to be your host tonight as we walk through this webinar. So first thing I want to start with is an overview, an agenda of what we're going to cover. First, we're going to touch on some ground rules for the evening. Just make sure we all understand and are on the same page as to how we want to conduct ourselves tonight. And then secondly, we're going to jump into the specifics on the full-time job or internship search, from who's hiring right now to what tools can you use to find that out. How do you tailor a resume to get an employer's attention? What kind of follow-up strategies do you want to have in place? And what are the best networking tools to use right now? Toward the end, we'll go over some helpful tips, and there will be time for Q&A. So if you have questions, especially a big question that you would like help with, feel free to ask that at the end. However, if you would like to submit a question before that, my colleague, Tulsi O'Rourke from our employer relations team is managing the chat. So she will be able to see the questions you submit that way as well. So before we begin, a few highlights to go over. First of all, and I see a lot of you have already done this, you are welcome to turn on your video so that we can see you and know who's here, but there's no pressure. We do ask, though, that you mute your mic when you're not speaking, just so that there's no external noise that might distract us. As I said, chat is for questions and resources, so if you have a question during the webinar, you're welcome to share it. Kelsey is managing that, or if maybe there's a link or a resource you want to share with tonight's attendants, you're welcome to share that there as well. A few conversational norms that we request of you. One is to share airtime. So if you do have questions, or especially at the end during Q&A or as you're talking on chat, just ask that no one be too dominant there. Give space for people to talk and to listen and to respond. I definitely ask that you practice grace with me and with each other this evening. There might be some awkward moments as I switch between screens and resources. There could be an interruption here and there. I know all of us are working through utilizing this kind of technology on a regular basis since a lot of us began working or taking classes from home. So I would definitely appreciate that grace, and I'll be sure to extend that myself. And finally, if someone shares information tonight about maybe what their personal experience is, we just ask that you respect confidentiality. What we say here tonight, the content, we want to make sure that we just respect everyone that's involved. The PowerPoint itself that you see right now, we are going to send to you via email. So the links you see, the resources that you see listed, the notes that I have, that will be coming your way. Okay, so let's start. Let's talk about the full-time job and internship search during this COVID-19 pandemic. I want to start on a broader level, talking about job and internship searches in general, because one of the things I often see as a career advisor is that people often approach the job or the internship search kind of like shopping on Amazon or eBay. They see themselves as the customer or the job seeker looking for a product that they want to buy, in this case, a job or an internship. So to go about looking for those opportunities, they go to a website with job or internship postings, and then just like submitting product for a payment for a product or a bid on something you might see on eBay, you submit your resumes for the positions that interest you. And then just like with Amazon, kind of similar to waiting 2 days for your package, you then just kind of sit back and wait to hear from the employer and wait to see who might want to interview you for one of the roles you found on those websites. I talk about this because unfortunately, that is one of the most ineffective ways to look for a job or an internship. To simply go on the internet, apply to lots of things on job posting boards, and then wait to hear back. You will probably be waiting a very long time, because in this scenario, you're actually not the customer, you're more like the product. In this situation, the companies that are hiring right now, they're the customer, you are the product. And in the same way that companies have to market their products to get your attention so that you may want to buy what they're selling, so you have to market yourself effectively and successfully in order to get an employer's attention, get noticed, and get those interviews and opportunities that you're after. So what we're going to walk through tonight is, what does it look like to do that? How are you going to market yourself successfully, get companies' attention so that you can pursue these opportunities that are out there right now? First thing you have to start with is, who's hiring, right? Whose attention is it that you're trying to get? Well, this is something that Career Services has been paying very close attention to through conversations with employers and different resources that are out there. And we do know that despite what you might hear in the news or through conversation, there are industries in demand right now, and there are companies that are hiring. Some of those industries that we know are hiring would, of course, include healthcare and pharmaceuticals. A lot of those essential stores or industries that have remained open, like grocery chains. Supply chain and logistics opportunities and companies are also hiring right now. It's important that those grocery stores get those food items on a regular basis. So we're seeing a lot of supply chain, shipping companies or logistics companies that are currently open. Sanitation is going to be open and probably grow as returning to sanitary and bacteria-free environments become even more important over the summer. Of course, virtual communication, the kind of software that we're using now, those companies are doing well in hiring. Online retail like Amazon is obviously doing very well, even online gaming sites, and then banking and insurance as well. To kind of stay abreast of who is immediately hiring right now, LinkedIn actually has a helpful list that they keep updated every day. And I want to take a minute and show that to you just so you can have an idea of what that resource looks like. So give me just a second to share my screen real quick so that you can see that. Give me just a second. Okay, so you should be seeing that website now. Again, this is accessible on LinkedIn. If you sign into your LinkedIn account, the link to this page is always at the top right-hand corner of the news feed. However, there is a link to it in the presentation that I will share. And as you can see, a long list of the companies that are hiring and the amount of people that they're hiring. So lots of companies out there, especially in those industries that I noted, that have opportunities they are trying to fill. So that's going to be a great resource for you. And I'm going to head back to the PowerPoint now. There are some additional resources that are also going to be helpful in getting an idea of the companies that are hiring, maybe even the companies that aren't hiring or that have frozen their hiring. One of those is a website called Candor. I'm going to open this one as well so that you have a chance to see it and kind of get an idea of what it looks like. Give me just 1 second to share this with you. So on Candor's website, what you see is a live feed that is updated by users. So the information is only as good as the people who have submitted the details, but it's a live feed of hundreds of companies that are either hiring, who have frozen their hiring, or who may actually be in the process of laying off employees. So in addition to getting some ideas of potential companies that are hiring, I think Candor also works really well as a cross-reference resource. So if you see a job posted, or if someone tells you about a company that might be hiring, you can come here to confirm and to check. That said, just because a company says that they have frozen their hiring may not necessarily mean they have frozen hiring for every single position. There might be certain departments that are frozen, other roles might be higher as needed. So if you have a connection at the company, if you know someone that works there, it's best to confirm in person as well, just to make sure there are no opportunities that you might be missing. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation now, so you have a chance to continue with me. I've included 2 additional links in addition to Candor that I think will be helpful. I won't open them, but you will have access to them when I share this presentation. One is a blog article from Handshake, the online job posting board that we use at the University of Dayton. This blog article is the top 500 companies that are hiring students on Handshake right now. So you can look at that list and get an idea of not just who's hiring, but who is hiring college students, either for internships or for full-time jobs. And if you don't see their posting on Handshake, you could go to the company's website and look for it there. There's also a website with a lot of career and job-related information called The Muse, and they have a list as well, very similar to that Handshake article, an updated list on a regular basis showing the companies that are hiring. So right there, 3 great resources to begin informing yourself who is actually hiring, what are the companies that I may want to start targeting and focusing on. Now let's talk about some of those online job boards you could go to find opportunities, to see who's hiring, and to see which specific roles that they might be filling. The first in the job board I'm always going to start with is Handshake, because Handshake is specific to the University of Dayton. Handshake is an online job posting board that you have to be a member to use. There are school members like the University of Dayton, and there are employer members. When an employer member posts a position on Handshake, they have to choose which school members they want to see that posting. So if you're in your Handshake profile and you see a job or an internship that is posted there, you are seeing it because the company chose UD as one of the schools they wanted to see that opportunity. As I said, marketing yourself effectively is the key to this search. That means you have to figure out, how am I going to stand out? How am I going to get noticed? Using Handshake is one way to get noticed, because the employers are going to check to see which students from which schools apply to our opportunities. So they will see that you applied. I can't guarantee that you'd get an interview, but I can at least guarantee that they would see your resume. And given the competition that's out there, that's actually quite a feat. So using Handshake would be very helpful. A few key things to remember whether you're using Handshake or any other job board. First is, I'd recommend that you broaden your industry search. So maybe it's been your dream to work in marketing. Maybe you are a communications major with a PR emphasis and you wanted to work for a PR firm. Great, look for those opportunities, but knowing that a variety of different industries have been impacted in a variety of different ways by the pandemic, maybe some of those PR agencies aren't hiring right now. So broaden the industries that you're considering. Could you look for PR roles or marketing roles or communication roles in those companies or in those industries we just covered that we know are hiring? Secondly, when you use keywords, I would recommend searching keywords like remote or virtual, in addition to those in-person roles you're going to be looking for, especially if you're seeking an internship. Because if an internship is being offered remotely or virtually from a company, it probably doesn't necessarily matter where it's located. If you're in Chicago, but they're in Tampa, Florida, if that internship can be done online, then you can still go ahead and apply for that. So look for those opportunities as well. Finally, and I'll show you how to do this in just a second, I recommend sort by posting date so that you're looking at the opportunities that were posted in the last few days or the last few weeks. I would prioritize those roles that are most recent. Because if a company has posted something since the end of March or the beginning of April, we can pretty confidently know that they posted those opportunities when all of this going on with COVID-19 was happening. So they were aware of the financial challenges and risks, and they are still at a place where they can hire. If something was posted in early March or February, I don't know if I would trust that. That's something I would want to confirm. So let's take a look at Handshake real quick. just to make sure that we know exactly how we want to use that. So I'm going to go over to Handshake. Give me just 1 second to do that. And you should see Handshake. You should see my Handshake profile. So when you sign into Handshake, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go up to jobs. This is where you're going to find full-time jobs, internships, any opportunity that we know of is going to be there. So give me just 1 second for that to pop up. And here we are. So as I said, you're going to have lots of filters up here that you can use to look for opportunities. You may want to add something like remote. If you're looking for an internship, in addition to adding a city or specific keywords related to the industries you're interested in, you could also search a word like remote or virtual to look for opportunities. And as you can see, there are a lot of opportunities that are posted. What I want to do is I want to go to where it says relevance and instead change that to date posted so that we're looking at opportunities that are recent. As you can see, some of these have just been posted in the last few days. So again, let's say you are that communications major, maybe you're in political science and you're interested in maybe working for a campaign this summer. A local politician just posted this opportunity in the last few days. So here you would see information as to the deadline, as to when you would need to apply and how to apply, information related to the job description, and specific information about the length of the internship and if it pays or if it doesn't. All of that information is very helpful. And again, sorting by date posted is going to help you find the opportunities, whether it's an internship or a full-time job, that is most recent. And therefore, we can be confident that the company is hiring. I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint now. Because there are lots of other job boards that you can use, not just to find opportunities, but just to kind of get an idea of what are the companies that are hiring, what are the industries that I'm seeing represented on these boards to give me an idea of perhaps where I should look. So I would recommend also taking a look on LinkedIn and using these same roles. Go to the Jobs tab, search a variety of keywords related to your industry or to remote or virtual opportunities, sort by date posted, and if you find something, you can apply there, or you can go to the company's website and apply there as well. Indeed.com is probably the largest job board out there to find opportunities. If you're looking for an internship, I've actually found a lot of success the last couple of weeks looking on internships.com. There seem to be a lot of opportunities that are posted there, specifically remote or virtual internships. So I would take a look there. As you can see, there's a long list of other resources to use. If you're interested in working for the federal government, if you were here in the Dayton area and you were thinking about interning or working for the Air Force Base, you would actually want to use usajobs.gov. A lot of these websites allow you to set up an email alert where once a week you'll get an email communicating the new opportunities that have been posted. That might save you time and help you focus on those more recent postings that we can be confident are getting filled. So we've taken a look at some of the industries we know that are hiring. We've taken a look at some of those resources that can give you up-to-date information on who's hiring and who's not. And we also know there are several job boards you can go to look for opportunities to apply to. Now let's move on to, once you have found some opportunities that you want to apply to, what you want to do when you apply. Well, one of the things that you want to do is you want to tailor your resume to the job description. How do you do that? What does that mean? Well, it means you want to read the job description, like the description we just saw on Handshake. You want to read it over a few times and really pay attention to the minimum and the preferred qualification sections. When you do that, look for the skills and the abilities and the experience that the employer wants you to have, maybe like strong Microsoft Excel experience. Find those that you know you possess. And then go back to your resume and determine where you could include those keywords, or again, those skills or abilities or experiences that the employer is seeking that you know you have. So in this case, if the employer was looking for someone with experience in Microsoft Excel, I'd want to look over my resume and ask myself, do I at any point talk about my Microsoft Excel experience? If not, I need to edit my resume and include that. I may need to reword one of my bullet points or maybe add a new one so that they can see I have what you're looking for. Some companies, especially larger ones, if they get a lot of applicants, might use something called an applicant tracking system to scan your resume for keywords from the job description. We want your resume to have those keywords so that they notice you. So adding them to your resume, tailoring your resume to reflect the content and the language of the job description can be very helpful in that process. When it comes to what is happening right now with COVID-19, we know that there are unfortunately a lot of UD students who lost their internships. They went through a competitive interview process for an internship. They were successful in landing one, and then unfortunately the company had to rescind the offer or cancel the program. If that happened to you, I would not only reach out to a career advisor like me so we can talk through that, but I would consider adding that to your resume. The name of the employer, the fact that it was for summer 2020, and then maybe a bullet point that talks about competitive interview process you went through, your successful landing of an opportunity, and then the unfortunate cancellation of the program. This will help companies know that you weren't waiting until the last minute to look for an internship. You did your work. You were a very competitive and worthy candidate. You got something, but the circumstances just didn't work out. That will actually work in your favor and make you, again, make you appear more attractive, market yourself more effectively to that company, get their attention, and hopefully land an interview with them. Next, let's talk about follow-up. This is going to be important too during the COVID-19 pandemic, during this summer that we're heading into. I have a calendar here to kind of walk through what a follow-up process should look like. I want to acknowledge it is clearly not the month of February, so please forgive that, but this is a tool that I use often, and it's really just to help you understand what timing should look like during this. So when you apply to a position, once you found an opportunity you're interested in and you apply, I would give it a week or two, and then if you have not heard back from the company, follow up with that company, maybe once every week or every other week until you have some sort of communication from them. This is so that you can get on their radar. It is so they can tell that you are interested in this. It demonstrates your initiative, and it just helps you get on their radar to try to get their attention. How would you follow up? Well, you would call or email them and simply say, hello, my name is Matt. I am a senior mechanical engineering, I'm a junior mechanical engineering student at the University of Dayton. I just applied for this internship. I'm very interested in this opportunity, and I would love to talk to you soon about it. You might be wondering, how do I find the phone number, or how do I find the email address? Well, if you've applied on Handshake, oftentimes that that information will be at the positions page. You can also Google the company and try to find a local phone number to call, or you can go on LinkedIn and look for a recruiter from that company and reach out on LinkedIn as well. So there are lots of ways that you can do that. I recommend stay pleasantly persistent. If you don't hear back in a week or two, try again. If you don't hear back a week or two after that, try again. I would give it 3 or 4 attempts to try to reach out to the employer and get on their radar. If you do hear back though, don't be surprised if they say that right now they're just kind of in a waiting phase. A lot of companies, their hiring process is taking much slower because the company's trying to figure out financially what's going on, when can we hire, is that person going to start online or can we bring them in the office? So a lot of hiring timelines have been extended and have slowed down. So don't be surprised if it takes a little while, or again, if they tell you that there's really no new information and they're just waiting to hear what's going to happen. So you be patient, be pleasant, but until you make that communication connection, I would still be persistent. Some things to help you stay motivated, some good strategies to put in place right now. One would be to set goals for the amount of positions that you are going to be applying to per week, or the amount of contacts you might want to make when it comes to networking, which we'll talk about in just a second. I would recommend add regular time to your calendar to do your job search or your internship search, to apply, to network, to follow up. This really almost becomes its own part-time job. So especially as classes are winding down, I will open up time for you to do more of this. I also find it really helps students if they create a Google Sheet or an Excel document where they are keeping track of the companies they have found online or on job boards that they want to apply to or that are hiring, or those companies to which they've already applied. The value of doing this is that, again, it's going to help you keep track of the companies you've applied to, what positions you applied for, when you applied, when you might need to follow up, the contact information you were able to find for the company, the connections you might have there, and just any notes that are worth remembering. So this is going to be important information that I would track for yourself. The other valuable thing, especially if you do this in a Google Sheet, is notice in the top right-hand corner that there's that green share link. In addition to just keeping track of this information for yourself, if you share it with your network, with your friends, with your family, with your mentors or connections in the area, and say, hey, it's me, will you take a look at this list? These are the companies that I'm focusing on right now. These are the companies that I've applied to. If you could take a look at this list and let me know, do you know anyone at these places, or have you heard anything about what's going on at these places? You know, all that feedback and information could be very helpful. And you could get lots of people looking at this list and giving you tips and guidance and pointers, again, to help you stand out and make connections with the employers. So keeping track of this helps you, and then sharing this list helps you as well. That then goes to a good segue about networking. So one of the main pieces of advice we have companies telling us right now is that now is the time to stay connected and to network, to build those connections to help you get noticed. One of the main statistics that we often see about the job and internship search process is that over 70% of people that land an opportunity land it where they have a connection or because of a connection. So who you know is very important. I often compare it to going to a new restaurant. Few of us would go to a new restaurant unless we have gotten a good review online about that restaurant or from someone that we know. And oftentimes hiring works the same way. The people the company is going to start with are the people that have the good reviews, especially from people that work at that company that the recruiters might trust. So connections are going to be very valuable. Let's start by talking about who you currently know that you could reach out to. Well, like I said, your personal network is going to be incredibly important. So parents, siblings, extended family, friends of your family, anybody from your community that might be able to help you, it's worth reaching out to, especially right now when some opportunities are going to be limited, reaching out and asking for help. And don't forget your fellow flyers, professors, career advisors, student organizations you're a part of. If you're a part of any specific centers or programs on campus, like the Fit Center or the Davis Center, you know, reaching out to who you've gotten to know through those opportunities, asking for their help and guidance can be valuable too. As you can see from the illustration that's on this document, it's oftentimes not about who you necessarily know, but it's about who your people know, your second and your third degree connections that can end up opening doors for you. It's also important to think through who can you get to know. So once you've identified companies that are hiring, it's going to be important to think through, okay, who might be at those places that I could build connections with? And one of the best tools to use would be the Alumni Database on LinkedIn. I'm going to click on this link for you so you have a chance to see it. Give me just a second to do that, and then I'll share my screen so that you can see it. So give me just 1 second. And we are now on my LinkedIn profile. So we hope all of you have a LinkedIn profile. And what you would want to do is go to the alumni database that you can search on UD's LinkedIn page. That link that I clicked will take you directly to it. At this database, you'll see over 84,000 alumni that you can search by where they live, where they work, what they do, what they studied, and their skill set to really focus on who might I be able to reach out to and ask for a connection with. When you have found a company that you want to apply to, or when you do apply, I would come here and check to see who might be working for that company. So let's search Amazon, for example. We have 70 alumni that are working for Amazon. So I'm going to add that main filter. And then down here are those alumni. And again, you could continue to add keywords to focus your results, like location, for example. But these would be some of the alumni that you might want to reach out to and request what we call an informational interview, just a 20 or 30-minute conversation about what they do with the company, how they got there, what it's like to work there, and then ask for some help and some guidance for yourself. You know, I've just applied for an opportunity. Any tips or advice on how I can stand out? And hopefully some of those alumni would be willing to help you. We value community at UD, and that extends beyond campus into our alumni community as well. So LinkedIn can be a really helpful tool. In addition to searching the alumni database, you can also search for a company. So I'm going to search for Amazon. And then you can look at their employee list. So if there aren't any alumni that are working at a company, if you click on their employee list, give me just a second for that to come up. One of the things that you can do is search by connections. So I could check to see, you know, do I have any first degree connections that are working at this company? Maybe they're not alumni, but I am friends with them. I am connected with them on LinkedIn. If so, I could reach out to them for some guidance and some help. If I don't have any first degree connections, I could also use my second degree connections. Notice that I have over 1,000 second degree connections at Amazon. So these people might not be UD alumni, but they are a friend of somebody that I'm a friend with on LinkedIn. So I could reach out to some of these mutual connections and ask them if they'd be willing to connect me to this person to learn more about the company that I've applied to and how I might be able to stand out. So whether you're looking for alumni in the database or going through the employee list on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is going to be a really helpful tool to get to know the people that can help you get noticed. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now. And touch on just a few additional tools that you can use. The first is Flyer Connections. Flyer Connections is actually an online platform through the University of Dayton. It's a part of our alumni mentoring program. But whereas the alumni mentoring program focuses on long-term mentoring relationships, Flyer Connections are for quick, maybe just one-time conversations that you can have with alumni who have volunteered to help current students or recent graduates. So I would check out the Flyer Connection platform to see if there are alumni maybe working in the geographical locations or in the industries that interest you, and reach out to them for some of that networking help that's going to get you noticed by the companies you're trying to pursue. We're also starting to see more virtual career fairs popping up, and we'll probably continue to see that over the summer. So watch for those. I would encourage watching for free virtual career fairs that maybe advertise companies that are going to participate that are well-known, reputable companies. And then a virtual career fair is going to be a great way to meet recruiters or companies online. Finally, there are professional associations. For example, let's say you're a marketing major. There's the American Marketing Association, which has chapters in a variety of cities around the country. You may want to think through different professional associations connected to your industry that, while right now probably wouldn't have many in-person events, might have online networking opportunities, online resources, or job boards that you could use to look for specific opportunities. I would expect them to also kind of give up-to-date information about what's going on in your industry in regards to the pandemic, and that's going to help you prepare as well. Finally, before we close with some question and answer time, I want to leave you with some helpful tips and general reminders. So number one, what is not going to be helpful during your job or internship search in the months to come is negativity, despondency, or giving up. I recognize that it is quite possible that just a few months ago, you thought moving to New York City and getting your dream job in the airline industry was going to be something easy to do. And a few months ago, it probably would have looked like that. And of course, that has changed now. That doesn't mean, though, that you shouldn't be all in and give everything you've got to your job search. It doesn't mean you should give up. Now is the time to stay positive and energetic and enthusiastic, because those are going to be the people that probably have the most success. So what is going to be helpful? Being flexible. And I would recommend be flexible early. So I always encourage students and alumni to think, whether you're looking for a job or an internship, what are your different tiers? Again, maybe your dream job is working for the airline industry in New York City. And if that's your dream, go for it. See if there are opportunities, see if you can network, but recognize that dream role might be something that you have to pursue in the next 5 years or in the next 3 years. What would be your second tier opportunity, or what would be a third tier opportunity? You know, what would be some of the backup plans? Start looking for those as well. And if one of those give you an offer, maybe be flexible now. Don't say no to lots of things and then get desperate in July or August. Maybe be willing to be flexible now and be flexible with your career planning in the near future. Open-mindedness. Stay open-minded about industry, location, the roles you're applying to. Again, there are opportunities out there. You might have to shift yourself just a little bit to find them and to get them. Stay humble too. Don't be scared to ask for help. There are going to be career advisors and career services professionals working through the summer. So you are welcome to continue to reach out to us for support, encouragement, resources, in addition to everyone else in your network. Now is the time for coming together and helping one another. So don't be scared to do that. I would also encourage you, keep a long-term focus. What do I mean by that? Again, your dream role might not be able to be something that you get right out of college right now, or your dream internship might no longer be an opportunity. So maybe that is something that you have a year from now, or 3 or 4 years from now. Maybe you have to start somewhere you didn't expect, and your path can take you towards where you want to be, as opposed to starting right at that point. So just keep a long-term focus and realize that what things look like today is not necessarily what things are going to look like a year from now, or even a few years from now. Now is also going to be a time for creativity and grit. So think about it. What new jobs or industries are going to be created because of all the drastic changes we're seeing and that we have seen go on in the last couple of months? I mentioned earlier, sanitation work and processes and products are probably going to become even more important and heavily utilized in the months to come. So there might be all kinds of new opportunities pop up there that didn't exist before. While some doors have closed temporarily, lots of new ones are going to be opening in the months to come. So be thinking outside the box and watching for them. Most of you, I'm sure, have been through hard situations before. So you've developed resiliency. You wouldn't be at the University of Dayton if you weren't a hard worker and a problem solver. So you have the skills needed to get through this search. Use those now, rely on those now. And as I said, remember, career services is going to be here for you to help you with your job search or your internship search. And even thinking if an internship maybe doesn't happen this summer, what are some other things that you can do? We have a webinar for that coming up in just a week or two. But we can also help you with resume or cover letter reviews, getting your LinkedIn profile up to shape so you can be doing that networking that's going to be so important right now, and maybe even help you with virtual interview practice, since most companies probably through the summer will be doing most of their interviews online. So don't hesitate to reach out to us for that help. With all of that said, those are the main points I wanted to cover this evening. There is absolutely time now for questions if anybody would like to ask or submit one on the chat.
We can start with this one. Do I need to meet all the requirements of a job in order to apply? Or if I don't meet them all, should I not apply?
Great question. A lot of people think if I don't meet every single requirement for a job or for an internship, I can't apply. And that is not the case. Most job descriptions are the company's ideal candidate. Like if the perfect person applies, they're going to have all of these things. We don't live in a perfect world. None of us are the perfect candidate. No one's going to have everything. So I always say it is worth the risk. Apply for the opportunity and let the company be the one to decide you're not qualified. Don't exempt yourself from an opportunity that you might have gotten. Maybe you only meet 75% of the criteria, but maybe that's more than anybody else who applied. So I say go for it. Now, of course, there are some things to keep in mind. Let's say you're applying for a job that says looking for someone with 10 years of experience and the 30 following certifications in this computer hardware. Well, if you don't have any of those certifications and you're just not coming out of college, that might be a bit of a stretch. But if you are close to some of those qualifications, if you match somewhere between 60 to 75% of them, I would say go ahead and apply. Again, let the company be the one to say no. Don't exempt yourself. Great question. Any others?
We're getting some questions in the chat now. So what should we do if a company says no calls or emails on the job application or job description?
Absolutely. So remember, the term that I used was pleasant persistence. Pleasant would mean pay attention to what they say, don't do anything that would anger or upset them. So in that situation, what I would do, if the company has been explicit, please don't call us, please don't email us, I would respect that. I would do my networking with alumni or connections that are working there. So I would not hound a recruiter. I would not call the company anyway. I would go to LinkedIn and I would try to find alumni that are working there and I would reach out to them. Or I would turn to my own personal network and I would see if anyone knows anyone that's working there. And I would try to get myself noticed by the company that way. Because if I can talk to an alumnus who works there or a connection that someone knows that works there, they may be able to put in a good word for me with HR. They might be able to tag me as an internal referral, someone that knows someone that works there, and that could get me noticed instead. So I would network down the other path as opposed to going directly towards HR or the recruiter.
When is the latest we should stop looking for a summer 2020 internship and to then explore an alternative method, such as a minimum wage part-time summer job? And if you could touch on parallel planning as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we know right now is that most companies have postponed the start date for their internships. So we're seeing a lot of internships that will be starting in June and going to the end of July, as opposed to beginning in May and going to the end of August. So I would say it is still too early to give up. I would continue looking through at least mid-June, at least mid-May for opportunities that might be starting in early June. At the same time, I would be hedging my bets. So I would not put all of my eggs in just the internship basket. I might be applying for a couple other summer jobs that might be, have a later start date as well, just so that, again, thinking through my tiers, I have, applications in on all of my tiers. But don't give up now. I would continue to look through at least mid-May, maybe closer to the end of May. If it's gotten to June, especially mid-June, it's really too late. That internship is probably not going to happen or it's going to be too short. But I think now through mid to late May, it's still worth looking. When it comes to parallel planning, we do have a webinar coming up about that. Kelsey, would you be gracious enough, does anyone remember the day and time of parallel planning?
I'll add it to the chat.
Thank you. Some of my colleagues are going to help with that. But a few key things you can do is, number one, look for micro internships. There's a resource called Parker Dewey that you can access from Career Services webpage. Micro internships are short-term projects, most of which can be done online or remotely for a company. And a lot of them pay. So maybe it's a 20-hour project that's going to pay you $350. Maybe it's writing some blogs for a company, running their social media, working on their website, developing some complex Excel sheets that their finance team might need. You never know. But looking for those online opportunities, those short-term micro internships would be one thing to do. Volunteer work. So if you're just looking to build your resume and gain some skills and experience, you know, are there nonprofits or charities or faith-based communities that you have connections to where you could do some online work or, you know, some remote work for them? Maybe it wouldn't be paid, but it would still gain some professional skills for yourself, and you could add all of that content to your resume. And if you are a first-year student, a sophomore, or a junior, this would be, and even a senior, this would be a phenomenal summer to network, to build connections, to use LinkedIn, to find alumni in your industry and try to schedule some informational interviews with them, 30-minute conversations where you learn about them and they learn about you. Because those conversations will turn into connections that are basically seeds in the ground that will hopefully someday harvest and grow some opportunities for you down the line. So the people you talk to this summer, that networking that you do, those could become the individuals that open doors for you in the years to come for future opportunities. But again, we'll cover all of that more in depth during the parallel planning webinar that we have coming up. You're asking great questions. I'm so glad that you've been thinking through this critically. That's very clear. Are there any others that I can help you with?
There are a lot. Okay, do you recommend getting in touch with a recruiter for the job search process? If so, how do you go about finding them?
Okay, really great question. So yes, if the company has not barred you from calling or emailing them, I would look for the recruiter. The first thing that I would do is I would look for the recruiter on LinkedIn. Give me one quick second. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to go back to Google Chrome and share my screen so that you can look through, so we can look through some of those resources together. So give me just a moment. Okay. So you should, I'm back on Google Chrome. You should see, you should see my LinkedIn page. We're still with Amazon. These are all the employees at Amazon. I'm going to take out that second degree connection. So let's say there's a company and you're looking for the recruiter. One of the things you can do is go to the company's page on LinkedIn, like we did for Amazon, click on their employee list, like we did for Amazon, like what we're seeing now. And under all filters, you can add different job titles. So I'm going to add recruiter here. And I'm going to apply that. And this brings up lots of opportunities. Now, I have not sorted by location. So if there was a specific location I was looking for, let's say I was applying to Amazon in Seattle, you know, here would be some of the recruiters that work for Amazon. And again, I might look for people that I'm a second degree connection with. I might look for someone in a specific office. Amazon is obviously a very large example with thousands of employees. A lot of the companies are going to be smaller than this. But this would be one way to find that recruiter. Go to the company's LinkedIn page, look at their employee list, sort by title, enter recruiter or talent acquisition, something like that, and you might be able to find them that way. Another way is using Handshake. So I'm going to go back to Handshake real quick. Are we seeing Handshake? Excellent. So earlier, we used Handshake to look for some opportunities, and I'm going to try to see. It looks like my Handshake is frozen. Give me just 1 second to let that kind of come back up. Well, unfortunately, my Handshake kicked me out. So we are all familiar with the two-factor process. Give me just a second to get back in. This would be one of those moments where I need grace that I talked about earlier, so I thank you for that. And we're back on Handshake. So I'm going to go back to jobs. Let's say you find an opportunity on Handshake. So I'm going to enter one of those things that we did is I entered the word remote, and then I filtered by date posted. I'm going to go back to that local politician who's running for Congress. Let's say I applied for this and I hadn't heard back. One of the things you can do in Handshake is you can click on the job title in Handshake and it will take you to the positions page. At that page, sometimes there is the name of the person you want to reach out to. Notice under contact information, we have the name of the person that is hiring for this job. Sometimes it might be the name of the recruiter. So excellent. If I can find the contact information for this company, now I know who I need to ask for. Oftentimes on Handshake, you can find the contact information for the company by clicking on the company's name. So when I click on the name of this organization, down here on the right-hand side is the contact information. Notice that campaign manager's name was Eden. This seems to be Eden's email address. I also have a phone number that I can use. So if I couldn't find the recruiter on LinkedIn, if I used Handshake, I could go to the Handshake page for the position, try to see if there's a name of a recruiter. And even if there wasn't, I could go to the company's page in Handshake and look for contact information that way. Those would be two of the quickest and most efficient ways to find the recruiter and to reach out to them.
Matt, do you have any advice for internships that require a physical presence? So something like manufacturing, where you need to be in the plant and have a presence there in order to complete an internship. Do you have advice for students that are in those situations, in those fields?
Yes, good question. That's really tricky, and I'm very sensitive to that. So the first thing that I would do is the first thing I would do is I would try to look for those opportunities within industries that are still in demand. So if I know the kinds of internships I need to have are going to be in-person internships, I would try to think through, okay, what are those companies in my industry that do seem to be open that have been deemed essential? And I would look to see if there might be opportunities there. If there are not, one of the things that you could do, and this is something that we'll cover in the parallel webinar, is are there things you could be learning about that industry or even about that company? Are there online trainings you could take? Are there certifications that you could get? Is that going to be a manufacturing environment where having my Lean Six Sigma certification would help me? If so, could I maybe consider looking for an opportunity to do that over the summer online, so that even though I'm not getting that in-person experience I want and that we want you to have as well, I'm still sharpening my credentials, I'm still adding tools to my toolbox that will make me competitive for those roles when those companies have opened again and when those opportunities are out there. Those would be two of the things that I would advise.
And for students graduating in December 2020 or May 2021, when should they start looking for full-time jobs? And is it possible to get a full-time job with a company that you have not interned with? Absolutely,
it happens all the time. So that's where I would say come to Career Services so we can help you have a great interview, so we can help that resume stand out and really help you create bullet points that are going to demonstrate the skills and the credentials that you need. A lot of students absolutely get a job where they interned, but a lot don't. My very first job out of college in corporate recruiting, I never interned there once. So there's still lots of ways through networking, through marketing yourself effectively, where you can get their attention and they can hire you. And keep in mind, there are lots of companies that are going to be hiring again and within the next year that didn't have interns this summer because unfortunately they had to cancel their programs. So in some regards, it might even kind of level the playing field. So yes, you absolutely can land an internship even if you didn't work for the company. And Kelsey, can you remember what was the first part of that question?
When should students graduating in December of 2020 and May of 2021 start looking for full-time jobs?
Thank you. A lot of that is actually going to be dependent on your industry. So one of the things I'd recommend is think through the jobs you think you'd be looking for in December 2020 or in May 2021 and research the hiring timeline for those. For example, I'm the career advisor to the School of Business. Most of my finance majors and accounting majors, the majority will have a job offer the fall or winter before they graduate. So if they're graduating in May 2021, the finance industry typically hires early, especially the larger financial institutions. institutions. Most accounting firms hire early. They're going to hire in the late summer, early fall, again, late fall of your senior year. So those majors can't wait until March or April. They need to be looking when they come back to campus their senior year. But my marketing majors, they get jobs all throughout the year. In fact, most marketing opportunities come up later in the spring semester. So it's hard to say on this day and time, start looking, because it's really dependent on your major. So you want to do some research online. You know, if you are a chemical engineering major, when should chemical engineering majors start looking for jobs? What articles do you see? You know, talk to professors, talk to other students, talk to your career advisor. We will be able to tell you when that target is going to be. But what I will say is, no matter your major, don't miss the career fairs. Whether you're a first-year student, sophomore, junior, or senior, the fall career fair, come to it. Talk to companies, see what opportunities are available. Spring career fair, be there. If you don't already have an opportunity, do that networking. And do not wait until the week of graduation to start looking for those jobs. That is a little too late. So I would say, no matter what, at the very latest, begin in you know, mid-March, early April, late February, early March even, because the average job search is about 4 to 6 months. So planning wise, you know, if you're graduating in May of 2021 or December of 2020, you do not want to wait a week or two before graduation, because you're probably going to be in that process for about 4 months or so. So start your search, start your networking, plan that accordingly.
Okay, there was a question about including a canceled offer in a cover letter, and I responded directly to that questioner, but just for everyone, yes, a cover letter is a great place to put that. You have a little bit more space than a resume to explain the situation. There's another question about reaching out to alumni through LinkedIn. The student hasn't heard back very often. So what I want to do is plug Flyer Connection, because any alumni that are on Flyer Connection have opted in. They have said, I want to help other students and alumni at UD, and so your response rate is going to be a lot better even than LinkedIn. Typically, though, alumni are going to be pretty willing to help out their own, so it's always good to start with them. Matt, did you have anything to add for that?
Just, I'm pulling up Flyer Connection now, so you get an idea of what it looks like and what an effective tool it can be to use.
Great.
Any other questions, Kelsey?
So also wondering if there's a way to find personal emails. So outside of the ways that Matt showed you, oftentimes those are kept private. So there is a way through Handshake if the recruiter has opted to share their contact information, as Matt showed you. That's one way to find it. Messaging through LinkedIn is another option, or messaging through Flyer Connection. But sometimes recruiters don't share their email addresses just for the sheer volume of messages that they would receive. But
Great
I
advice.
think that's all the questions. Matt, do you have any final comments?
Just that we so appreciate you being a part of this webinar tonight. We are going to email you a PDF of the PowerPoint that I shared, so you'll have access to all of those links. And please do not hesitate to reach out to Career Services to speak with one of us for an appointment if we can ever help or support you.
And the recording will also be shared on the Career Services website.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and we hope to see you back for the next webinar.